Thank you very much for the invitation to this meeting in Iceland and for the invitation to speak about my experiences with ALS. I have been looking very much forward to this Nordic meeting and to visit your beautiful country. All wives and husbands to persons with ALS will have a lot of feelings and experiences in common. But we also have our own experiences and our own way of overcoming the difficulties. I hope that my experiences can be useful to others. I'm married to Bill, and many of you have met him last year in Denmark. He would have given his one arm for the possibility to be here in Iceland on this meeting. But he is unfortunately not able to manage the journey up here. It is the same problem for Birgit and Ingrid's husbands. They would also very much have been here today. But Jens, Walter and Birger send you all their best regards. Birger and I have now been living with ALS for 10 years. Birger lost his voice in '98 and speaks with his eyes. In 2000, he got a ventilator, and today he is living a good and active life. He still has lots of plans and still enjoys life. Because Birger is happy for the life he's living, I am also happy. I'm also very thankful. I'm thankful that Birger is still alive. Without the ventilator, he would have died some years ago. I'm also very thankful Birger is living his life with ALS in such a positive way, and because his work and activities give his life so much meaning. I'm very proud of him. He gives my life meaning. To get the diagnosis, ALS is, as you very well know, a nightmare that I don't need to describe to you. I just want to tell you about something I said to Birger a couple of days after we got the diagnosis. Oh, why didn't you get cancer instead of ALS? Then you at least would have had a chance. Imagine that I wished Birger had cancer. But it only shows how heartbreaking and desperate I felt. Fortunately, Birger and I have been able to face the facts, looking ALS straight into its eyes, so to speak. We faced the sorrows, the losses and death. I tried to imagine Birger's death and funeral and how it could be to live without Birger. I really tried to think as far as I could. I know it's not possible to prepare yourself completely on death, but maybe it does help you somehow that you have tried to realize the feelings you get by that kind of thoughts. We got on with our life, and today we can say that we have learned to live with ALS. We both have a good and meaningful life. In our everyday life, we don't think about ALS all the time. It is there naturally, but we don't use a lot of mentally and emotionally energy on it any longer. We now have a reserve of power, and therefore we have the possibility and pleasure to offer others our help and support. Next, please. This heart illustrates our marriage and love for each other. But we have a third part in our marriage, ALS. Around the heart, we have the rest of the world. I've only mentioned a few things of all the things we are under the influence of and also can put our influence on. When ALS comes into one's life, there suddenly is the third partner in the marriage. ALS becomes a part of your relationship. It cannot be pushed away. It is why it is important to recognize ALS as a part of the marriage and try to get as good a relationship to it as possible. It is a very difficult and hard process. It takes a long time. There is a lot of feelings to work with. All the losses of the normal functions that enter your life the one after the other, and often with a speed that is difficult to follow emotionally. Then all the things you will miss, a big hug, to be able to travel you two alone, walking hand in hand, hearing the sound of your partner's voice, etc., etc. And then there is the sorrow you have, knowing that you are going to lose your partner in maybe a few years. The person with ALS has the sorrow that he has to leave his partner and family, and that they will be left behind with the grief. But there's no other way than facing the facts in order to get the most out of life. It is, as it is for all people, important to focus on the positive sides of life and on the possibilities instead of the problems. We get periods in our life with ALS where it's nearly impossible to see anything positive. The problems can be so massive that we don't have energy for other things. It can be very hard to have all the practical work, also the assistance and help to the partner with ALS, and at the same time have to cope with sorrow and worries. In a relationship, there is three to be nursed and taken care of. There's you, there's me, and there's us. I have to have some time for myself. You have to have some time for yourself. And we must also have some time together. When ALS enters our lives, it will disturb that balance, and it will change the normal roles we have in our lives. The person with ALS will not any longer be able to take care of all his normal jobs, but needs more and more help. And the partner gets new and also many time-consuming jobs. Her time for herself gets less and less. Also, too little sleep and rest are often a big problem. In the long run, it is destructive physically and psychologically. For a person with ALS, it is very hard to witness that the partner has these heart conditions. Partner to a person with ALS have the right to have time for himself, the right to sleep and the right to peace and quiet, just like everybody else. Otherwise, it is not possible to carry on coping with the demands ALS gives. It will not be possible to keep up the spirit and the good mood. With that, you cannot be the support you want to be for your partner with ALS. The feeling of not doing a sufficient job gives a low self-confidence, and it only gives problems. Therefore, and it cannot be said too often, it is important that the society offers the help that is necessary. And it also has to be the right kind of help. Both must have the possibility to be able to keep their activities and have time for themselves. In that way, they also can be better partners to each other. Bio and I are not in any doubt that the system with personal helpers is the best help we can get. It gives us both the possibility to have our own activities and also to do things together. We would not be able to travel to our summer house and stay there for 14 days without the helpers. We would not have been able to travel to a conference in Düsseldorf in Germany, and we would not have been able to participate in the Nordic meeting last year on Iceland without the personal helpers. I could not have kept my job as a nurse 30 hours a week and also feeling safe by leaving Biwa in the care of others, if not we had our personal helpers. And I certainly would not have been here in Iceland on this meeting. Biwa makes his own decisions. The helpers are his legs, arms and voice, so that Biwa's decisions can be carried out. It is important that every human being is the boss in its own life. The feeling of not having the control over your life cannot be healthy. Of course, we both have to get used to nearly always having helpers around. It is also a process to learn how to manage that and also how to be an employer. It is important that the relationship between Birger and the helpers is good, but also that the relationship between me and the helpers is good. The helpers are persons that gets very close to us and our life. So it is important that we agree in who we are employing. The advantages with the personal helpers are, however, so many that it is absolutely possible to learn to live with the disadvantages. Get together with others in the same situation. It is, as I'm sure you already know, the best you can do to help yourselves. No one can understand how it is to get ALS into one's life better than people in the same situation. I'm a member of a group of wives, and the group have now existed for 8 years. The group is also for husbands, but for the moment we are 8 women. We meet once a month for 3 hours. The group is a place where we can unload whatever we are filled up with. We can exchange our experiences, share our sorrows and our pleasures. We have made a few rules for the group, and one of the most important is the promise of secrecy. We all have to feel sure that we safely can talk about everything we need to talk about. The promise of secrecy is also a rule that applies to our husbands. Not because we want to have secrets for them, but some of our husbands know each other, and everyone in the group must feel absolutely sure that the things they tell the others are not for other people's ears. There can be subjects which are difficult or impossible to talk with your husband about. And there can be subjects that you don't want to share with him in order not to put a strain on him. In order to help your husband, it is necessary that you help yourself. All partners to a person with ALS needs other partners to talk to, and I can only recommend to start a group. It can, though, be difficult to start a group if the geographic distance is too big. It also can be a problem to leave the partner with ALS alone at home. And it is important that not all in the group are in the first phase of shock because the diagnosis ALS is new to them. Then they cannot give each other the necessary support. It gives the better group if some of the members have experiences with a life with ALS. In our group, we are some who have a long experience, two who are widows, and 2 who are quite new. From the start of our life with ALS, I knew that I wanted to stay in the job market. It was and still is important to me to work and keep my profession updated. I need the impulses it gives. It would not be healthy for us if we had to be together all the time. Because we have the helpers, as I mentioned earlier, and because I have a flexible and understanding place of work, it has been possible for me to both manage my job and to manage all the things at home. It is up to the individual person and family to find out what the best solution is. How are we going to organize our life? And then go for it. But of course, it is necessary that society makes the right possibilities available. Even if a partner chooses to leave the job market and stay at home with her or his partner with ALS, it is important that the couple still gets enough help. The partner cannot manage it alone 24 hours every day. She or he still have the right to own activities, the right to enough sleep, and the right to peace and quiet. Birger and I divide our life into a life before the ventilator and a life after the ventilator. We fully realize a difference between before and after. Before the ventilator, life was full of worries and anxiety. How long will Birger live? Will he get a pneumonia he cannot survive? How will his death become? Will he psychologically be able to managing his disease? Will I be able to continue managing everything? Etc., etc. We also, particularly the last year before Birger got the ventilator, didn't get enough sleep. We were awake several times every night, and sometimes nearly the whole night. So we were tired and without energy most of the time. It was hard work, physical and psychological. Life was full of situations where we couldn't always see how to manage it all. After Birger got the ventilator, the energy, spark of life and vitality have returned. Birger hasn't had any lung problems during the 6 years on the ventilator. He sleeps like a baby and he is living an active life. The horizon of time in regard to death has changed. Death has become less present in our life or in our thoughts. We also don't have to worry any longer about all the losses. Except from the ability to use his eyes and to smile, there's no more to lose. So we now have a life with a peace and a feeling of security that we didn't have before. To say yes to the ventilator is not the right choice for every person with ALS. It can be the right decision to say no thank you. It is a difficult decision to make, and we will have to remember that it is at least as difficult to say no as it is to say yes. But the offer of a ventilator later must be a reality, as I see it. It is then the person with ALS who has the choice if she or he wants to live on with the condition ALS gives. And the next question. When Birger suddenly, one day in 2000, felt that he wanted to live on a ventilator, he wrote to me on the computer, "Dear Jutta, if you still think you can endure life together with me for yet a little time, I will ask you to phone the hospital and tell them that I want to have a ventilator as soon as possible." Birger very well knew that I would go with him all the way, no matter which decision he took. But even if he mostly wrote this in order to tell me his decision, it was also a need just to be confirmed that I really wanted to go with him all the way. It is, of course, only the person with ALS who can make the decision, but it is necessary that also the partner is positive to that decision. Otherwise, the chance to get a happy life together can be doubtful. A big responsibility is put on the shoulders of the partner, and that responsibility the partner must be ready to take. The helpers can make a lot of the practical work, and they are, of course, responsible for the work they do and for the safety for the person with ALS. But when there is a partner, she will naturally be the one who gets the biggest responsibility. She will automatically be in charge and be the one who makes sure that everything is up to standard, for example, the hygiene. She will also often be the one who educates the helpers, a time and energy demanding job. To live with a ventilator demands that both in a marriage are positive to a life full of helpers. Helpers who are present in the home 7 days a week. It is possible to get used to that, and when you find that the advantages are many, then the disadvantages is easier to accept. Another next, please. I often say that the loss of my voice is the worst of the many losses ALS gives. Recently, someone asked why. Here's my answer. With a voice, you can say words of love. With a voice, you can cry and laugh. With a voice, you can argue. If you cannot walk, you can compensate with a wheelchair, but you can never compensate the tone of a voice. These are Birger's words, and as you can understand, he finds that losing his voice is the worst loss of all the losses. If Birger could choose between the ability to speak or to breathe, he would choose the ability to speak. For me, the loss of Birger's voice also is the biggest loss, and for the same reasons. Some of a person's identity is in the voice, so it is a big loss. Today we don't think about it, because we for many years now have lived without Birger's voice. But when I hear Birger's voice on a tape-recorded conversation, a lot of feelings is filling me up, and I for sure feel the loss. Birger does not always get the chance to say all the things he wants. In the company with many people, it can be difficult to participate in the conversation. And Birger and I cannot have an argue on fair conditions. I will always be in possession of the remote control, and I can get the last word, if I want to. So I have to be aware of that problem and try to be fair. Not always easy, if it is the feelings that controls you and not the common sense. Birger has to be a patient and forgiving man, and he is, thank God. Our communication is based on some other demanding conditions than normal. It takes patience, time, and concentration. But again, we have to look on the positive sides. Birger is able to communicate, and it is the most important thing. Without that possibility, Birger would not find life worth living. Birger is able to speak with his eyes, and he luckily also can smile. I'm very grateful for that. The eyes can tell a lot without words, and sometimes I feel Birger is able to give me a hug with his eyes. And the next, please. When we talk about quality of life and of dignity, there's two important factors: the conditions we are offered and which attitude we have to life. These two factors are decisive for the quality of life we have. To get a good life, you need help, remedies, a car, etc. Conditions among many others. The attitude to life is, on the other hand, something individual and something that can change, but so very important for your quality of life. A positive attitude or attitude of bitterness makes all the difference. To keep the balance, my conviction has been a great help to me. A conviction that Birger shares. We believe there is a meaning with everything, also with ALS. We have a confidence to life and a meaning of life, and because of that we feel secure. Somehow it makes it easier to live when the whole matter, not just are meaningless, even if I don't know the full meaning why Birger got ALS. Next, please. Besides that, I use a quotation from Karen Blixen, a famous Danish author who wrote My Africa, a story that was made into a film with Meryl Streep and Robert Redford in the main characters. You must love your destiny, say yes to what you have got, and not wish for something completely different. It does not mean that we should not try to change the things that need to be changed. We must not just close our eyes and accept everything, but we must look at the life we have got and try to get the best out of it. It does not help that we are dreaming of another life, that we try to escape from reality. Life is too precious for that. It has to be lived here and now. Thank you.